when you say yes, when you repeat those vows, you are saying that in the worst of it, I'm going to stay by your side.
Yeah.
Because marriage is not about happiness. Welcome back, everyone, to the Wells of Wealth podcast.
Welcome back. It's good to be back in the building with you, baby.
It's always good to be back.
I always love pink on you.
Do you?
I do. That's my favorite color on you.
Okay.
You definitely glowing today.
Thank you. I wore something a little special for you today.
Okay. We must gonna have a good topic. You wore something special.
We're gonna have a great topic today. And I see you matched my swag.
I try, baby. I try. I mean, I can't get on your level, but I try a little bit.
Wish you could.
I look fly.
Yeah, I look good.
Oh my. Let's do it.
Okay, let's get into it. We're gonna stop playing with y'all. But today's episode, we're super excited about because we're going to be talking about marriage. And so, honestly, a part of why we started this podcast is because with our experience and the things that we've learned and just our relationship, we wanted to impart wisdom on other couples that are just starting out or that are in their marriage journey. And so this episode is special for me.
Good.
It's good. So
I think almost 13 years in the game. We've earned a place to give a little bit of knowledge.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. We had a little something we can offer up.
Yeah.
So
let's start off with our quote for the day, the words of wealth. Today I'm going to read our vows. To have and to hold.
You better hold me.
I'm going to hold you, baby. From this day forward, 13 years ago, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, through sickness and through health, to love, to cherish, to death do us part.
Dum, dum, dum.
So
those are probably the most important words that you will ever utter in your entire life.
Absolutely. And you have to really understand the commitment that you're making.
Yeah.
And I think people enter the institution of marriage too lightly.
Absolutely.
And people focus more on the wedding day than they do investing in the actual marriage.
Right.
And so you will see somebody go and spend 60, 100,000. Our friends, they're in the photography and the wedding business, and they tell us about weddings that people spend over $200,000 on.
Absolutely. Only for it to end the next year.
Yeah.
Or the year after.
And so a lot of times people spend more money on the moment than they do investing in the institution.
And that's a great point. And I think it stems from first understanding marriage, God's design for marriage.
Yeah.
Because marriage it's not a worldly thing. As much as our society tries to paint marriage as something that is just created or glorified and something to be put on Instagram and TikTok and he proposed to you. Okay, girl. All of that. Marriage existed thousands of years ago. Like it is a part of the existence, the creation of this world. One of the first things that God did was create the covenant of marriage.
That's
And
good. I
so,
like the word covenant.
covenant.
And a lot of people look at it as a contract versus a covenant. And they're very different.
They're extremely different.
Um,
What do you feel like is the importance of
Contracts are built on trust, but a mutual level of distrust too, because I am going to outline how this relationship is going to work. Mm-hmm. So we have business contracts with vendors, we have business contracts with business partners. And though I go into the relationship trusting them, I'm also prepared for them to not fulfill certain obligations. And I have certain contractual things in alignment in case they don't. Absolutely. So there's a certain level of distrust in place. Yeah. When we talk about the covenant of marriage and a covenant is designed by God. So in marriage, when I enter the institution, I understand that God is the leader. He's the one I'm making the covenant with. Correct. So I don't have any distrust in God. Yeah. Like I have 100% confidence that he is going to lead me in the way that I need to go if I listen to him. Yeah. And so when I ask for your hand in marriage, give me your hand. So when I ask for your hand in marriage, I'm saying, hey, this is something that God has created. And I am going to let him lead us. Yeah. And I want you to follow me as I follow him. That's good. And so the moment I stop following him, then I can't expect you to follow me. That's good, dude. Because the covenant is not in existence unless I'm following him. Right. Absent him is a contract. Yeah. So I think that's the difference. And there's a lot of contract marriages today. Absolutely. Which is why you're seeing so many divorces today. Absolutely. Because when you enter into a covenant, you are entering with the understanding of this is a sacrifice. Mm-hmm. This is something that you plan on having in existence for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. You plan on walking hand in hand with this person until you die. Absolutely. And being life partners and being soul partners. Mm-hmm. And so if you're looking at a covenant requires a very personal relationship. A contract does not. Yeah. Nor does it require God. Mm-hmm. And so you're so right. Like you're like spot on with that, because so many times the way that even in a covenant, even when you get married and you have God at the center when you first get married, along the way, if you start to drift, if you stop following God, our household is no longer serving him, we're just kind of doing life without him, well, then now it's void. Yeah. It's void. There's nothing to go off of. Yeah. We're just out here figuring it out. Yeah. On our own. And that allows the enemy to creep in and then to start adding in little temptations here. Yeah. Me trying to me wondering why, oh, well, I'm getting looks from this guy and that guy, or he's paying me attention, or whatever the case. You can have a coworker that you start to get close with or something like that. Yeah. The devil allows little temptations to creep into your marriage when you're not connected to the person or the source that you have the covenant with. Yeah. And so I think that's so important, because a lot of times we don't realize the magnitude of marriage. Mm-hmm. That's true. And I think that it's hard to go into an institution for some people that they've never seen. Mm-hmm. And so if you've never seen a successful marriage play out, sometimes it's hard to know what that looks like. Yeah. And so you have to have a good role model of what the institution is supposed to look like. And you have it. Yeah. You have in his word. Yeah. And he gives you an understanding of what he created and how it looks. We see him with creating Adam. Yeah. And then he takes from Adam, from his womb, he creates a woman. who he puts together to do life together.
Mm-hmm.
And you see Adam in the garden, he is in consultation with God.
Absolutely.
And you see when they go against God's will, that's when damnation comes. And so it's important that we are following and listening to God in our marriage, because we have to know, hey, we don't need to eat from that tree.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have to know, like, this don't look like him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we have to be able to hear his voice, because he's our leader.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he allows us to bear fruit. And that's through Dion, Donovan, Daniel. He created the institution for his glory. So because the fruit is not just bared in the seeds that we made through them. It's also what we plant, our parenting, what we plant in them.
Right.
So they can go out and sow seeds and plant.
Right.
You know, and when God told Abraham, I will create many nations from you, like, he planted what he wanted into Abraham and allowed that to be multiplied. And so I think that we have to have an understanding of marriage from that viewpoint, versus just, oh, you look good, I want to be with her, she fine. Like, there's a lot more to it. Because
love is not, when you get married, marriage should not be based off of a romantic love.
Yeah.
Because romance dies.
Yeah, absolutely. It fades.
It fades out.
Yeah.
You'll get to a point where life starts to hit,
mm-hmm.
where financially you may not be in the best place, where health can play a role, where kids start to come into the picture. And so then possibly that can cause a disconnect between you and your spouse. There's so many life factors that will start to happen, where that romantic goo-goo-eyed, oh my God, I just love the way he loves me.
Yeah.
All that can fade away. And then you're left looking at a person that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what the marriage was based off of.
Yeah.
And so you have to know that when I get at that altar and I'm preparing myself and I answer those questions of, you know, do you take this man to be your husband? You have to really question what that means and understand that when you say yes, when you repeat those vows, you are saying that in the worst of it, I'm going to stay by your side.
Yeah.
Because marriage is not about happiness.
Say that one more time.
Marriage is not about your happiness. So much so that I want to read this. This is actually by Dr. Tony Evans, and it's a devotional that's on the Bible app, but it says, marriage is not merely a social construct, nor is happiness its goal. This is one of the main problems that many marriages face today. Couples relate to marriage only through social and emotional terms. We must go back to the biblical understanding of marriage. God created it as a sacred covenant with the responsibility to reflect his image and to advance his kingdom. Happiness is a benefit of marriage, but it's not the goal of marriage. The goal is to reflect God through advancing his kingdom on earth. Happiness occurs as an organic outgrowth when the biblical goal is pursued.
That's good. Happiness is the fruit.
Happiness is the fruit.
But and it's not always going to be, because in the vows, through rich or poor. Like, if we ain't got money,
there ain't a whole lot of happiness.
It ain't a whole lot of happiness. You may have peace.
Right.
But you probably you're not gonna be just cheerful every day.
Correct.
If you're in sickness, you might not be the most happiest person. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, but we're saying, hey, I'm going to stay with you through the good times and the bad. Whether I'm happy, whether I'm sad, whether I'm frustrated, whether I'm depressed, whatever life throws our way, we are going to rock together and we are going to do it with the framework of a Christ-centered marriage.
Yeah. And the thing that you just said that stood out to me is we're going to do it together.
Yeah.
So many times in marriage, when the going gets tough, when things get hard, we pull away from our spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think it's out of the idea that we're disappointing our spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think it can be out of a selfishness
Mm-hmm.
or just not understanding our emotion or what we're going through. But it's so important that in those moments, you join forces together and you lean on your spouse and y'all figure it out as a unit because that's the whole purpose, right?
Yeah.
God created Eve for Adam to be a helpmate.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're at your worst, I should be here to help you get through that.
Yeah.
Not to make you feel as though you're failing me because you're going through whatever you're going through. It's hard mentally because I'm maybe not getting what I need from you in that moment. I'm not receiving what I need from you, but God didn't call me to always just get. I have to help.
Because we should be one.
Right.
Like bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Like he took him from Adam. Like he created Eve from Adam. And it's symbolic. We should be one. So if you hurt, I should hurt.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we should both desire to heal our body. Because we won. You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
And so I think a lot of times people don't realize, like, if I hurt you, I'm hurting me because we won.
Yeah.
If I'm not patient with you, I'm not patient with me because we won. And we have to start looking at marriage through that lens. Like, we're one body, we're one unit.
Yeah.
And we have to work. If you hurt, if you depressed, I should be working to heal my body.
Yeah.
Because you part of my body.
Right.
We're one.
And you should feel it.
Yeah.
You should feel that. You should feel, hey, something's off. And there have been times through our marriage where just mentally I'm just not in a good space.
Mm-hmm.
And life is hitting me hard. There's just a lot of pressures with God, everything.
Yeah.
Work and kids.
You name it.
Yeah, you name it. And a lot of, like, you'll notice when I get to that point, and you always help pull me back out.
Yeah. And same vice versa.
Yeah. Because I know you. Like I literally know you like I know myself.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I can sense in you something that you're going through it, but you may have not acknowledged that you're going through it.
Yeah.
So there's times I can say to you, hey, babe, you got a lot on your plate. You got a lot going on, but I need you to come get rest. Because what I know that you need is rest in this season.
Yeah.
And it won't be until you get it that you're like, man, I needed that.
Yeah.
Like I really needed that.
Yeah.
Because you're always on overdrive. But as your partner in life, I can see it. I can see when life is weighing you down and pull you out of that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's needed because, like I said, if I'm not healthy, the body's not healthy.
Right.
If I'm not healthy, the family's not healthy. And if I'm not healthy, how can I really hear from God and lead us from what he's calling if I'm not healthy and in consultation with him? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's key. I mean, to make sure that the body is whole and healthy. And that's each person in the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Because we won.
Because we're one. Absolutely. And so as the leader of our household, being in a position where you are over the ins and outs of our household, as a spiritual leader also, how do you make sure that you stay connected to God, to hear from him, to then be able to lead us?
It's a few ways. Number one, you already know, Sunday night, I'm typically in the hot tub. Sometimes I'm just chilling, praying, talking to myself, just getting revelation from God. I'll put on a sermon, listen to that, just hear from God. In the mornings, typically I try to get up early enough where I can read my scripture. I mean, God will reveal so much through his word.
Absolutely.
And there was a long period in our marriage where I wasn't in my word like that. And when I got back into my word, I'm like, man, I was not doing a good job leading us because I was not hearing from him. And he gives me so much revelation.
Yeah.
When I just pick up his book.
Right.
And I'll be reading through a book, I'll be reading through a chapter, and I'm like, okay, man, this is exactly what I needed for this moment. He answered me to a T on what I was strategizing or trying to figure out or struggling with.
Yeah.
And so those are some ways that I think that he speaks to me, and then through you. Because we'll have conversation and you will say something to me, and I would have been dealing with some issue or trying to figure something out and have prayed to God for an answer, and then you will say, okay, well, you give me the answer that I've been praying for.
Wow. That's good.
And so
that's powerful.
And so you have to, but God designed you for me.
Right.
As my helpmate, as the person that he wants me to do life with, so we can go forth and build his kingdom.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not surprising when he uses you as the vessel, because we won.
Yeah.
And we can finish each other's sentences.
Right.
You can look at me and know I'm stressed.
Absolutely.
Before I know.
Absolutely.
Because I'm in denial. I'm just going through life just thinking like this is how it's supposed to be. And you like, no, your body, like we're in tune with each other.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, having a good helpmate, having a good wife, having a good husband, they should be able to understand and know you well enough to be able to speak life into you.
Absolutely.
And I think we do that for each other.
I think so too. I always think about the period in our marriage where I feel like we probably struggled the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I always reflect back on what was missing during those times or during that time. And one, like you said, I don't think neither one of us is really connected and plugged in to the word and truly allowing God to be at the center. Mm-hmm. We thought we could do it on our own.
Yeah.
Foolish of us. Very foolish of us.
Don't work.
Does not work. We also got to a point where we stopped prioritizing each other because when you marry someone, you, as much as life gets in the way, you have to prioritize each other.
Absolutely.
Consistently. I don't care how many kids you have.
Yeah.
I don't care how demanding your job is.
Yeah.
I don't care what other pressures you face. You absolutely have to prioritize your spouse and let them know that they are the most important person to you on this planet.
And you prioritize me, baby. I am your priority. Continue. I don't mean to mess you up. Continue.
Ooh, okay. So, but yes, you have to, right?
Yeah,
because when you don't, you allow other outside factors to start to creep in and create separation. And so then it becomes less likely that you're intimate with each other.
Yeah.
It becomes less likely to have conversations and be in prayer with each other or even pray for one another. You start to create a gap.
Yeah.
And if you let the gap get too wide, it's very easy for something to creep in or someone to creep in and start to try to fill that gap.
Yeah.
And so in our difficult time of our marriage, which again, after having kids and still trying to figure out our balance and getting back to one another. And
Yeah.
that romantic part that was, you know, that was missing. We struggled with finding each other.
Yeah.
Even though we were right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can enter a marriage with the best intentions. You can enter a marriage just completely involved and just embraced by each other and just desiring each other. But when you don't continue to work on that desire, when you don't wake up and choose each other every day, you can very much so end up in a situation where you look up and you're like, I don't even like him no more. Or we have no connectivity anymore.
Yeah.
And so the gap widens.
Yep. Because it's hard to just from an intimate standpoint. When you get married, if assuming you don't have kids, it's a much more carefree life.
Absolutely.
And then once you start having kids, you waking up all times of the night. Just having a kid is just draining in itself. It's easy to lose each other.
Yeah.
In all that chaos, it is easy to lose each other.
Yeah.
And typically intimacy does suffer. And for most men, I know they need to be intimate. That is part of the body.
Yeah.
That they need to be, I mean, that is how we are wired typically.
Yeah.
With the women, it's a lot more emotional.
Yeah.
And I think the body has to be fed. You know what I'm saying? Like the body, both people have to make sure that we are intentional. And it's not just intimacy sexually, it's also mentally.
Yeah.
Because your body needs that.
Right.
For us to be whole, both connections need to exist.
They do. Absolutely. Absolutely. You really don't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And when you are lacking one, then the other suffers.
Yeah.
And so it is a continuous balance
Yeah.
of being what each other needs.
Yep.
It has to continue to flow. And so I know, like, when I get to a point where I feel that cup emptying, I'm very quick to come to you and say, nope, we need a date night.
Yep.
Like, let's book the sitter. We need to go. We got to connect.
Yeah.
Because I never want to get out of connection with you. Because when I get out of connection with you, that's when you can become vulnerable to what you see on social media.
Yeah.
The lies that you see on social media, right? You look at your life and you may feel like you're not happy because you see all this everywhere, but people, again, are only showing their best moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're seeing the best moments every single day, continuously.
So you think that's normal?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you think that, oh, so-and-so did this for her husband. We were talking about in last season, like, one of our tenants, if you go on Instagram, you would think,
yeah, he's
the best husband in the world. Meanwhile, they driving a car through the house trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
And so you're just seeing glimpse of, and most of the time it's not even real moments of people.
You can't fall prey to that.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah. So I think that's really good.
Hey, Wells of Wealth community. Are you working right now?
I'm just trying to get to the bag, baby, selling these houses.
Really? If you're looking to buy or sell a house here in the Houston area, please contact the Wells team. But not during the podcast. Maybe we can put that away until it's done.
I got you.
Okay. All right, cool.
Back to the podcast.
All right. So one thing I wanted to share, with everyone was a metaphor or analogy that I saw when I was watching a sermon by Dr. Tony Evans. And it hit home so hard that I was like, okay, I gotta share this one with everybody. And so he said that one day he saw a crack start to form in his room, just a little hairline crack. And so he called out a painter to come and repaint the crack and just kind of tape it up, get everything back together. And then he noticed about another 4 weeks or so, a couple of weeks pass, crack is back. So he's like, let me call this painter because he must not have done a good job.
Yeah.
So he calls the painter back out. Painter comes. Oh, I'm so sorry for that. Let me fix it for you again. No cost. It's fine. I got it. So then 4 months pass. Not only is there a crack, the crack brought other friends. There's all kind of cracks. Like
It's just cracky.
It's just cracky. It's crackish. And so there's cracks all throughout this wall. And so he's like, forget the other guy. I'm going to call me out another painter because maybe this one just doesn't know what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
The other painter comes out and, he's like, hey, can you get this fixed for me? Can you patch up these, what's going on with the wall? And he was like, I can't fix it. And he said, why can't you fix it? This is your job. This is what you do. He said, I can't fix it because the cracks aren't your problem. It's your foundation. And so
you better preach, Tony.
It was so good.
That's
and I was
good.
like, ooh, it matches with the real estate and everything. But a lot of times we try to patch up these cracks.
Yeah.
Knowing or not knowing that the problem isn't those little things that's going to pop up in our marriage. It's the foundation.
Yeah.
And if we don't have a solid foundation, then it doesn't matter what you try to patch up.
Yeah.
There's just going to be more cracks. And
that's
so
good.
The covenant that we take on when we get married, it provides a covering for us. It covers us. And if you think about covering doesn't stop external things from happening, right? If you wear a raincoat, if you have an umbrella, if you have shade or whatever, it doesn't stop the sun. It doesn't stop the rain, but it provides a covering where you're not affected the same way as you would be if you didn't have that covering.
Yeah.
And so your covenant that you're making with Christ, with God, when you say, I do, is essentially saying that, yes, you're going to experience things in this life, in your marriage. Times are going to get tough, but I'm going to cover you. I'm going to make sure that in those things you grow closer and not further apart, so that you can pass down to your fruit, to your seeds, a relationship with Christ. And then they can pass it down to their next generation. Yeah. And you create a generational lineage where you have believers that are just going into the world and continuing to build God's kingdom.
That's good. You killed that one.
Thank you.
That was a good analogy.
Thank you, Dr. Tony. That was an amazing sermon. I think that he did this year, 2023. So check for it on YouTube. If I can, I'll link it. But it was incredible, and it just it helped us to put a visual to what we already know.
Yeah, because it's all about the foundation. There are going to be hard times. They're going to come. They're going to go. But you have to have a foundation to get you through it.
Absolutely.
That's rooted in Christ.
Absolutely.
Because if it's rooted in society, it's going to blow with the wind.
Yeah,
it changes every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so what's acceptable today may not be acceptable tomorrow. But the thing about God's word is it don't change.
Absolutely.
Like it was written thousands of years ago, and it's not going to change. So you got something to stand on. Yeah. And that's a good thing we can talk about too. Like when we're debating something, when we're trying to figure out something, like if one of us can show the other person the word, then that's what we stand on. Yeah. Like that's what we.
Then there's no debate.
There's no debate. Yeah. And so it got to be your cornerstone. It got to be built on a firm foundation.
Yeah.
If you want to have longevity in a successful marriage.
Correct. That's
Yeah.
good. Well, I think that's the perfect segue for Wealth Avenue.
Agreed.
So we're going to hop into Wealth Avenue, which is the time where we give you tips and tricks on your road to success. So I feel like you should just go first.
All right.
You're the man. You got to lead. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You gotta...
Let me see. I think my biggest takeaway is understanding God's purpose for marriage is not just based on your happiness. It's based on your holiness.
Yeah.
It's based on understanding how he designed it. Trying your best to be in alignment to what he's designed and called you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself will bear good fruit.
Yeah.
So everything ain't gonna be perfect.
Absolutely.
You're gonna go through trials. I mean, you're gonna go through ups and downs in marriage. That's just life.
That's life. You're gonna go through ups and downs in
anything you do.
Yeah.
But if you have that foundation, you don't have to worry about the cracks. Because when the painter comes, Jesus, God, when he comes and fill the cracks, they'll be filled.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about it keep on shifting and
Right.
moving and trying to figure this out and trying to figure out. When he comes and cover you,
yeah,
you'll be covered.
Absolutely. That's good. It's a good takeaway. My takeaway for today in this conversation, you know, as a woman or as a girl, I grew up not really seeing a lot of marriages played out in front of me. And it was so important for me that if I ever went down the road of getting married, which clearly I have, that I did it the right way. Because if I was going to do marriage, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be a marriage that would last throughout time. Because I don't plan on doing this no more. I didn't enter this marriage under the pretense of, if this doesn't work out, on to the next.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
For me, this is a forever thing.
Yeah.
And so when you are thinking about who am I going to spend the rest of my life with, one, realize that you have to be in consistent prayer. Like, you really have to talk to God and know that that person was created for you to move through life together. And if they don't look the way they look, if something were to happen to them and they're disformed tomorrow, are you still going to love them the same? If the answer is no, you don't need to get married.
Exactly.
If maybe they're paid, maybe like, girl, he got a good job, he got benefits, he got this, he got that. If he loses all that tomorrow, are you still going to love him the same? If the answer is no, you don't need to get married. Like, these are the things we have to really, truly think about when you enter into the covenant of marriage. And if you're not entering into your marriage as a covenant, and just like, oh, I'm going to get married and we'll see what happens. And if I don't like them, divorce next. You're just going to be in an endless cycle of dysfunction. So make sure that the person that you end up marrying is not a person that you feel like you can live with. It's a person that you feel like you cannot live without.
That's good.
And that's my takeaway.
Good job.
Thank you.
That was deep. I like that.
Thank you. You know, I be doing what I can when I can. But guys, thank you all so much for tuning into the Wells of Wealth podcast with us today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. I hope that something we said resonates with you, or if it did, please share this with your friends, share this with your family. If you know any young couples that's looking to get married or they're dating and they're trying to figure it out, share this with them, because we want them to see the real of marriage and what it looks like and how God designed it to be for them. So thank you guys for joining with us. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at the Wells of Wealth podcast. And until next time, see you later. Bye.